Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking the financial story behind one of the most dynamic, high-performing sectors in the entire Indian economy, women's wear.
So, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the big picture, the booming apparel market. Then we're going to zoom right into the numbers to see why women's wear is such a standout. After that, we'll peek inside the management playbook, look at the risks they're dealing with, and wrap up with what the future might hold.
First things first, let's set the stage. To really get what's happening in women's wear, you have to understand the sheer scale of India's apparel industry. I mean, it's an absolute powerhouse.
Okay, let's kick things off with a huge number. India's textile and apparel market is on track to hit nearly $388 billion by 2028. But it's not just the size that's staggering, it's the speed. We're talking about a compound annual growth rate of almost 15%. That makes it a true engine of the economy.
So what's feeding this beast? Well, it's basically a perfect storm. You've got more people with more money to spend, and at the same time, a massive boom in online shopping. Throw in some strong government support, and of course, a deep cultural love for apparel, especially ethnic wear, and boom, you have a recipe for explosive growth.
All right, let's zoom in a bit. The whole market is on fire, that's clear. But the real story, the part that gets super interesting, is when you look specifically at the financial performance of the women's wear category. This is where it gets impressive.
And here's the kicker. This category isn't just growing, it's absolutely exploding. A 30% jump in revenue in just a couple of years? That's a massive signal that this segment is just firing on all cylinders, leaving a lot of others in the dust.
And it's not just about selling more stuff, it's about selling it smarter. I mean, look at this. The growth is highly profitable. A profit margin of over 26% is incredibly healthy. It tells you that these companies have a really firm grip on both their costs and their pricing power.
And this chart, man, it says it all. When you put women's wear right next to the other categories, the difference is just stark. Men's wear is struggling with some serious ups and downs, and the accessory segment is barely even profitable. Meanwhile, women's wear is just standing tall as this stable, high-margin superstar.
So, the big question is, how are they doing it? Numbers like these don't just happen by magic, right? There's a real strategy behind it all. So let's crack open the playbook and see what these company leaders are actually doing to get these amazing results.
Okay, part one of the strategy is classic, but man, does it work. It's all about growth. As this management analysis points out, the key is a two-pronged attack. Go out and get new customers, while at the same time, get more business from the clients you already have. Simple, effective, and it gets that top line soaring.
Now for part two, and you could argue this is even more critical. It's a relentless focus on being efficient. They are getting super smart about systematically cutting the cost of their raw materials. By doing that, they're directly protecting and even boosting those fantastic profit margins we just saw.
So when you boil it all down, the strategy is this powerful three-step formula. 1. Grow your sales. New customers, old customers, just sell more. 2. Get smarter and tougher on what you pay for materials. And 3. Keep a really tight lid on all your other spending. It's that kind of discipline that builds such incredible profitability.
But look, it's not all sunshine and roses. Of course not. No industry this hot gets a free ride, right? Every high-performing sector has its challenges, and women's wear is definitely no exception. Success here means carefully navigating some very real risks.
And one of the biggest risks out there is dependency. Think about it. On one hand, if most of your money is coming from just a handful of big customers, that's always a shaky spot to be in. And on the other hand, if you're relying on outside manufacturers without any long-term deals, that adds a whole lot of what if to your supply chain.
But smart companies, they don't just sit back and hope for the best. They manage these risks head-on. They're out there hustling to find new customers and more suppliers, so they're not too dependent on any one source. They use clever tactics like buying in bulk to fight against price swings. And to stay ahead of the competition, they're always innovating, always looking for new ways and new places to sell their stuff.
So, after looking at all of this, the growth, the profits, the risks, where is it all headed? Let's take a look at the path forward and the massive opportunities that are waiting for this category.
The future here is really a balancing act. On one side of the scale, you've got those persistent challenges, intense competition, unpredictable costs, and consumers whose tastes can change in a heartbeat. But on the other side, you have these massive, massive opportunities.
A booming home market, huge potential for exports, and the nonstop growth of e-commerce.
And that really leaves us with one final big question. We know this category is a domestic powerhouse. It's built on a rock-solid foundation of cultural demand and some seriously sharp business strategy. But the real question now is, can it take all that strength, blend its rich traditions with modern technology, and truly become a global leader in the world of fashion?